Welcome back everyone to a new edition of Video Game Pickups. This is a special handheld edition. We will be looking at a total of 8 games, 5 DS, and 3 Vita. First up we have, unfortunately, a game I was not able to find in case for a reasonable price, so I got cartridge only. And this was a special game called Chibi Robo Park Patrol. It's an interesting chibi robo. It's considered to be the second best in the series. So, I currently only have this and Ziplash, which is arguably despised and hated. But this, funny enough, was released exclusively to Walmart here in America. Next up, looking at a couple of compilations. The first is Sonic Classic Collection, for the Nintendo DS, which includes Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic & Knuckles. So it's definitely, if you're a fan of the original classic 2D era Sonic, then this is probably the best compilation you can get, at least for handheld. Best would probably be on, of course, the GameCube. Next up, the only other compilation we have, and that is, of course, in a Namco Museum for the Nintendo DS, with a lot of all-time classics. I mean, you have Pac-Man, you have Galaga, you have Dig Dug 2, as well as Pac-Man vs. Galaxian, Mappy, the Tower of Dracula, as well as a classic golf game. But definitely a lot of good classic Namco games. I do highly recommend. You can get this very cheap, just like the Sonic collection as well. That's why I highly recommend. If you're a fan of classic era arcade games, this is probably, of course, as I've always said, the best series for compilations is the Museum. Next up, second to last, we have, of course, Super Mario 64 DS, which is a little bit downgraded versus the original N64 version of the game, but keep in mind that the original version of the game, of course, was a home console, and this was handheld, which still, I think, makes this pretty impressive to this day, and the fact it also includes the ability to change characters, which of course you did not have in the original version. So you could change to Luigi, of course, specifically, probably one of my personal favorite characters with Wario, and of course classic Yoshi. But definitely a game I recommend. The fact you can still get this very reasonable, and on average this runs about a third of the price of the 64 version. So I would say this is by far economically the best choice to make, while you can still get it cheap. Last on the DS side of things, a superb, great RPG that I highly recommend to any fan of RPGs or Nintendo games alike, and of course that is Golden Sun Dark Dawn, which is probably arguably my top 5 favorite handheld RPGs of all time. This is a game I definitely highly recommend to anyone to check out if they're curious, because it is a superb, great game. And 3 Vitas. First one is, of course, considered to be by many one of the best shooters, and that being, of course, Unit 13. Though many people, including myself, probably in my opinion, the best shooter, if you want experience, is probably Killzone Mercenary, but price-wise, this runs about 25% of the price, like a quarter of what Killzone goes for now. So Yen 13 is economically a smart game to check out for a very reasonable price range and get a solid experience on handheld. Second to last, we have, of course, Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 Plus, which is just the Vita port of basically Ninja Gaiden 2, or rather Sigma 2, of course originally for home consoles like the PS3 and 360. Now surprisingly, this game actually runs at a pretty solid frame rate overall. Now if there's a lot of action like some boss battles and stuff, occasionally you will find definitely some frame rate issues, and I'm sure you recognize these three ladies from, of course, the Dead or Alive series, obviously. And I know there's one person that watches a lot of my Dead or Alive videos that absolutely loves the Shrine Maiden. And the last is also a Tecmo game. A game I've been curious to play, and I finally got my hands on, surprisingly for a reasonable range. And of course that is Dead or Alive 3, or rather Dead or Alive Extreme 3 Venus Edition, or Venus version as it says, with also a different cover art. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this character, just haven't been. Now, I'll be honest, the only reason that I would ever probably play the Dead or Alive games is honestly mostly, even though the volleyball in like the first two are actually pretty solid, I'll be honest, the actual casino games and stuff is actually where the fun is in this series. So if you're like big into playing poker, blackjack, and stuff like that, like, get the extreme games. These are actually solid for that kind of stuff. But with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel. And stay safe out there in YouTube land. Hopefully you enjoyed the music in the background. Belial's theme called Paradise Lust, and this one called Paradise Lost. But I'll see y'all again soon enough.